Flower segment on Real World Gardener on the line via Skype. I've got Mercedes Sarmini, who's the everlasting flower herself. How are you today, Mercedes?
I'm blooming very warm.
Oh, okay.
I've got the pink cheeks and the pink cardi on.
Oh, but you are blooming very warm. And we're on a very blooming subject as usual, and it's all about edible cut flowers.
Indeed, but the ones that are specifically chosen for cake, and I'm going to put my hand up and confess that there's been a lot of that over the last few months because of the COVID, and I'm in the process of losing weight, but
So no
cake always better with cut flowers that are edible.
Wow. Okay. I hadn't thought of edible flowers for cupcake. Where do we start? Maybe pansies?
Well, yeah. Look, it all starts walking down the hill and you're passing your most favourite cake shop. And, how many times have you said to yourself, only one cake and it turns out to be 10 cupcakes? But, the cut flowers that for me that make the cupcakes taste so much better. There is a list, so be very patient. Mr. and Mrs. Peony is one of the cut flowers that you can use on your cake, especially your wedding cake. Very, very popular when it comes to wedding cakes, Mr. and Mrs. Peony. Of course, Miss Lavender. Miss Marigold is another one, and Miss Snapdragon. Now, there's a lot more to talk about, but what are your thoughts on those four that I've just mentioned, Marianne?
I had never thought about Miss Peony at all. Now, I was just wondering, do you separate the petals? Because peony is a very large flower. And then do you treat them with sort of slightly beaten egg white with a bit of sugar in them to make them a little bit?
Indeed. Look, Mr. and Mrs. Peony is not going to fit nicely on a cupcake. So in reference to petals, I'm with you on petals when it comes to smaller cake arrangements. But wedding cakes in particular, you can have the magnificent blooming head or heads if you want more than one on your wedding cake. And yes, there is a process, of course, that needs to be attached or sprinkled onto the cut flowers in order to preserve its beauty and, of course, flavour.
Yeah, I would imagine that if you didn't do some kind of process, the petals would wither and then just curl up.
Yes, most definitely, Marianne. And moving on to what other cut flowers are edible and are very suitable for cake is Miss Cornflower, Miss Lilac, and this was a big surprise to me, Miss Queen's Anne's Lace.
That is a big surprise because that's tiny little flowers on a big head. So do you use the big head on a big cake, or do you take out the tiny flowers and use them as a little extra decoration, say around a pansy or a violet or something like that?
Good question. For the more, creative, yes, second option would be phenomenal, but I think it's quite time consuming. But the reason why I found it a big surprise, because we both know, Marianne, that with Queen Anne's Lace, she is very thirsty in a vase, but also, if you take her away from water, because that's her lifeline, she wilts.
Yes, so you'd have to be very quick with the process from picking to then doing something with it so that you can, preserve it, the flowers.
Indeed. And moving on down the list is Miss Carnation. We all know that she's not just delightful on the nose, but also delightful in your mouth. A little bit bitter, though, for the ones that don't mind that. Miss Chrysanthemum, Miss Sunflower, and, of course, the most famous of all edible cut flowers, we can't go past Miss Rose.
Yeah, I could understand that. You couldn't go past Miss Rose. After all, it's useful in so many things in perfume, and rose water and all those kind of things.
Yeah. And you said earlier, just before we got into the topic of what suitable cut flowers are for cake, pansy is another one. And just before I forget, Mr. Violet is another one as well that you can. He looks fantastic on cupcakes, Mr. Violet.
Absolutely. It's such a dark, lovely purple. And they are very small. So you'd have to have a very delicate artist brush to brush on the egg white and sugar mixture. I think that's what it is. Yeah. And then lay it out, I guess, and maybe sprinkle more sugar on it. I'm not sure.
You're making me hungry, Marianne. I'm going to definitely go visit the cake shop up the hill. And the reason why I think they've got it on the hill is so you can work off the calories when you walk up the hill.
You've earned yourself maybe a teaspoon of cupcake, I reckon.
Speaking of cupcakes, I used to have an ex in the past that used to call me Cupcake, and I think it really stuck because I eat a lot of them now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And do you have you actually used the petals or the flowers on cakes yourself, or it's not something that you do?
No, definitely. I mean, only for friends. I mean, I wouldn't touch it if it's at a professional level. I just supply the cut flowers because you need to make sure that the cut flowers are not sprayed with pesticides and other chemicals, of course. But for the ones that I've baked for friends and family, yeah, indeed, I get out my little wisp and, you can't go past the what sort of sugar is it? Had a brain freeze now. The one that looks like baby powder. What's
icing sugar?
Icing sugar. That's it. I love icing sugar on cut flowers. It just makes them look a lot more edible, I think. Romantic. Cut flowers in the snow. That's what it reminds me of.
Oh, okay. That sounds wonderful. So there we have it. So it's edible cut flowers, but you need to look up the recipe because we're not going to it takes too long to tell you how to do that, but you need to look up the recipe for what you need to brush them with, some kind of egg white and sugar mixture, and lay them out flat so they dry before you put them on the cake. So that's been lovely chatting with you. And yes, we're both now very hungry, wishing we had a cupcake. And thanks for joining me on Real World Gardener, Mercedes.
Always a pleasure, Marianne. Bye.